This is now freezer temperature.
Ooh, and it's like walking into a big, huge industrial freezer.
This is an industrial freezer.
Yeah.
It's really noisy. Yeah.
It is.
And you can see the plasma that's been bagged up here.
It's minus 20 degrees in this freezer, and we're looking at a small pile of yellow ice blocks. That's your stock at the moment?
That's our stock at the moment.
Not a lot, is it, Richard?
No.
And that's the problem. We just don't have enough of this precious blood product they call liquid gold, and we're spending millions every year having to buy it in. Okay, let's get out of here because it's freezing.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
I'm Sharon Brett-Kelly, and today on The Detail I'm at NZ Blood, Te Ratonga Toto o Aotearoa, to find out why its plasma collection is at a tipping point.
Yes, we need lots more plasma.
Dr. Richard Charliewood, transfusion medicine specialist, is showing me around the Auckland facility, the lounge room where donors give blood, platelets and plasma, the laboratories that separate it, test it and distribute it, the freezer where the plasma is kept before it's sent off to Australia for processing. That's right, those yellow ice blocks are shipped to a Melbourne factory, then sent back as specific products that treat up to 50 illnesses. So let's find out more about this liquid gold and why it is worth more than $50 billion globally now and forecast to climb to more than $75 billion by 2027.
Plasma is the clear fluid that the red cells float around in, and it's made of mostly water, but the proteins give it a yellow golden colour. So that's the first reason. The other reason is it is really quite an expensive product. The amount of antibody in each donation is measured in just a few grams. And a typical dose for a patient may work out at hundreds of grams. So collecting that plasma is expensive. It uses expensive machinery and so on. And then the actual processing of it to separate out those proteins from the water and into their individual protein types is also very expensive.
Because it has to go to Melbourne.
It has to go to Melbourne. That's not the expensive part, although shipping is expensive. It's the factory there, if you want to call it that, CSL Behring, have a massive plant that is extremely expensive. So our plasma pools are about 10 or 12 tons of plasma, so vast quantities, to be able to get out these antibody concentrates. So they have huge, almost like silos, to be able to contain this plasma, and then all the technology to process it is very expensive.
So it's valuable stuff, and in fact we were saying that it's a big, big market. In the US in particular, it's worth billions of dollars because it's been commercialised in other parts of the world.
Yeah, so America has commercialised it. Most of the world has not. We continue to follow the model that a volunteer donor is the best kind of donor, as do most countries in the world. America has taken a different route. That's their prerogative. It has to be said, though, that without them, most countries around the world would struggle to meet their intravenous immunoglobulin needs. We are largely self-sufficient, and that's quite unusual in a first world country.
Has there ever been a time where you have had to buy it in?
We do. So we have to meet the demand for the hospitals, and that involves buying in plasma from the US, and it gets processed in exactly the same way as our plasma at CSL Behring. So the product is essentially identical, except it has a different donor source.
Are you saying from time to time you import it, you buy it in, or is it a regular, you're topping up?
At the moment, it's a regular thing because we need to top up because we aren't self-sufficient at the moment. And this is why we're so keen to try and get more plasma donors to donate, because then we can be self-sufficient again.
Because, as you say, it's very expensive. I mean, how much does it cost to bring it in from the US?
I don't have the numbers,
okay.
but it's called liquid gold because gram for gram intravenous immunoglobulin costs more than gold.
Wow. We're at a tipping point. That's the message that I'm hearing. What does that even mean?
Well, unless we can get our plasma donation numbers up, we are going to get further and further behind. So that's not good for us in a financial sense, in that we have to buy plasma from other countries. It's not good for us as a self-sufficiency perspective. So when COVID hit and donation numbers went down in the United States, they made it very clear to the world that it is a United States first policy. So they will not run out of intravenous immunoglobulin. They will just stop providing to other countries. And as a small country with a relatively small value contract, we would probably be dropped fairly quickly.
Did that happen during COVID?
It didn't actually happen.
Okay.
But if we aren't able to collect more plasma donations, we're just getting further and further behind.
And that's confirmed by Professor Peter Jaworski at Georgetown University in the US, who's got all the data on this. He says New Zealand has had to import more and more of the plasma product immunoglobulin for the last 10 years, and it now makes up around 20% of our total supplies. He estimates that we're spending $10 million a year on those imports. So if we paid donors, could we become self-sufficient? I'll talk to Richard about that later, but now we're off to the donors' room.
So what you can see here is donors come in, they complete a questionnaire, they get interviewed by a nurse, they get their hemoglobin checked, it's a little finger prick, and then they either come and donate red cells over here, or they're donating plasma over here with these machines, and in the far corner are the platelet machines.
It's a beautiful space, isn't it? And what we're hearing actually is something it's the goal from the Olympics, I think, over here. But we've got two big TV screens, and then we've got these very nice-looking Easy Boy chairs where people obviously sit. Beautiful open space, and the outlook is on the.
That's Dilworth College's playing fields, and we've been lucky enough to see the All Blacks practice there and the Springboks.
So while you're donating blood or plasma or platelets, you might be lucky enough to watch a decent game of rugby. But this is a plasma donating chair, is it?
Yes, yeah. So the plasma machines have a needle that connects to the machine. It takes out a little bit of blood. It separates the plasma from the red cells via a filter. Plasma goes into a bag and everything else comes back to the donor, and it just repeats that process a number of times until it's collected the required volume of plasma.
Okay, so that's done, and that takes around about 45 minutes, you were saying?
Around about that. So we adjust the amount of plasma that's taken out based on the donor's height and weight. So I'm quite a tall chap, so I end up spending a bit longer because I can donate more plasma.
I see.
Wherever we can get plasma, we are collecting it and trying to save it. Well, we recognise it's a very precious product. It's a very precious donation. All blood donations are very precious, and we want to make the most use out of everything that people donate.
Well, among the many surprises on my visit here is that you can donate plasma every 2 weeks. And that means that there are some super donors out there who've done it hundreds of times. One is Matthew Corshi.
275 yesterday.
Really? So you were in yesterday giving you what? That's wonderful. Tell me about how you started donating.
Well, this 275 doesn't include the ones that I used to donate overseas. So yeah, I started overseas at the time and been donating since then, though that will be close to maybe 300-400 by that in all.
Back in Kuwait, I believe you were an ICU nurse.
That is correct. Yes, being a nurse and seeing that many people need blood. Yeah, it was a good starting point there. So to save people's life mainly, and in Kuwait they used to incentivize you by giving cash as well.
Was that an incentive for you, or was it more what you were seeing at the time in your work?
More so what we were seeing there, especially in ICU, in emergency departments, we give a lot of blood and blood products. So that was the main motivation.
And then when you came to New Zealand, you continued.
I did, yes.
Why?
I've been driven just to save lives and to help other people. That's the whole thing. Nothing else other than that.
But it's a family affair for you as well. Your wife and your children are also donors.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a legacy, should I say? And all I told them was, all you got to do is just give, and it will help other people. And don't look at what you will get out of it, but just go out and help someone.
You'll be aware that in New Zealand, we need more plasma. We need more people doing what you're doing, donating it. And we use tons of it every year. What do you think about paying people to do it? You were saying in Kuwait there was an incentive. Do you think we should have some kind of incentive here?
I don't think so, because they are filthy rich people, and they have to incentivize people to go and do things. But I don't think here we have a great standard, and the detailing is immense. You go to the blood bank, they look after you really well. Things get screened, I believe I should say it in a better way, and every bit of it get utilized. And I don't think people should be incentivized in monetary wise. Instead, they should just give wholeheartedly.
Going to need to put some white coats on at this point.
We're going into the processing laboratory now, where bags of plasma are put straight into the freezer. But there's another source of plasma. Here, whole blood donations are separated into red cells, platelets and plasma. So that's plasma over there.
That's plasma donation.
On that
so
trolley.
You can see it's the best part of 3/4 litre of plasma.
Kind of a range of colours, from amber to light.
So
gold.
This one's a little milky, in fact. So that we fondly refer to as a McDonald's donation. That's somebody who's had a slightly fatty breakfast this morning.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Does that matter?
No, it doesn't. So when it goes to CSL Behring, they're separating out all sorts of proteins, and the fat-carrying proteins are separated out as part of that.
Oh, yeah. I see. But it's best not to have a fatty breakfast before
it doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in general, fatty meals are probably not the best thing, but for donation, it's fine.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll show you the centrifuge. So this gigantic thing over here, and we're talking something that's about 1 metre cubed.
Looks like an oversized washing machine.
Yeah, that's our centrifuge.
And that is the thing
There's an open one over there.
Oh, right,
and you can see how, if you think about it, a whole blood donation is 1/2 litre, so that's 1/2 kilogram. And each arm of this centrifuge can take 2 donations. So that's 1 kilogram on each arm, going round and round at thousands of revs per minute. So
that donation makes a difference to a lot of people, not just one person.
Yes. Plasma itself will be made into albumin concentrates, von Willebrand's factor concentrates, and antibody concentrates as well. So, and those can all help patients either live better quality of lives, effectively saving their lives, because without those products, they may actually die as a result of their illness. So,
and how long does that process take?
That depends what we're going to do with the donations. So if we're not making whole blood, not making platelets, we will do a hard spin to try and get as much of the plasma as we can. If it's we are making platelets, and it'll be a soft spin so that we get that layer of platelets nicely.
Okay, so just to be clear, so someone has
donated their plasma. Let's stick to mostly the plasma. They've
Yep.
donated their plasma. The bags that the plasma's gone into come down here immediately, and then
And
the
then there'll be
process starts.
Yeah, so for plasma, it's a fairly straightforward process. So we collect the plasma, it's in a bag, we freeze it, we do the testing for infectious diseases, and then it will go into our freezer storeroom, where we'll keep it until it's ready to be shipped off to CSL Behring in Melbourne.
Because the plasma, it doesn't matter if it's all mixed up together, so it doesn't stay in those little bags.
Yes, it does. It stays in those little bags all the way through until it gets to CSL Behring, and that's because we need to maintain traceability of that donation. So donors can phone in the next day and say, hey, I suddenly remembered something that I should have told you about, and then we will go and find that donation and remove it if necessary, so that the plasma's kept safe.
Okay, so it's all about traceability.
Yeah,
Why
and-
does it need to be frozen?
So that's to protect the proteins. So the proteins will degrade over time if they're kept at room temperature. So we freeze them to keep them in their best possible condition.
And that has to stay at that temperature all the way through to
Yes.
Melbourne to
Yeah.
CSL.
Yeah.
CSL?
So we, at the moment, from Auckland, we fly the plasma in a frozen to Melbourne. We're moving to sending plasma by ship. So we're doing that from Christchurch at the moment.
Why? Because it's cheaper?
It's cheaper, it's more environmentally friendly as well. So we are aware of our carbon footprint, and that is something that we are actively trying to address.
How often are you shipping over?
We ship weekly, and the pooling is roughly monthly. So they will collect all our plasma over the course of that month, and then open up the individual bags into a big vat and make the plasma pool that way.
And the plasma from here that goes there, that's the plasma that comes back here?
Yes.
Or is it a communal?
No.
it's New
Our
Zealand.
plasma, our product. So
Yeah. Right. There's a sign here that says, beware, man down alarm is not working. If you need to go inside, ask someone to go with you.
It is dangerous working in freezers like this because it is below minus 20. So we do have precautions, like this is a man down alarm. So if you were working on your own in that freezer and you were to faint and nobody knew about it, you would freeze to death. So we have an alarm like this so that people can work there, and if they do faint, the alarm will go off to say that the person is now horizontal in the freezer and needs rescuing.
We're at the end of the plasma journey in the dispatch area, and remember, it's been spun around, frozen, sent to Australia, kept in a vat, turned into 11 life-saving treatments, packaged up and sent back. And it's here in this cool room that you really understand just how important it is.
So this is the storeroom. Here are all the boxes with all the various blood products that we get from CSL. So this one is a hepatitis B immunoglobulin, usually used for women who have hepatitis B infection to try and protect the baby. This one is a zoster immunoglobulin to protect people who are exposed to chickenpox, who have bad immune systems, because chickenpox in that setting can be fatal.
Yeah.
As an aside, we're always looking for donors who've recently had chickenpox so that we can make
Including
that.
plasma donors?
Yes.
Call out to the recent survivors of chickenpox.
Absolutely, and shingles, because that's the same virus. This one is a fibrinogen concentrate that's used for people who can't make their own fibrinogen.
What is that, fibrinogen?
Oh, sorry, fibrinogen is the final protein that makes up a clot. Meshwork of a clot is fibrinogen. We also have all the antibody concentrates. This is one that we purchase in for people who can't tolerate the New Zealand one. So this is a second line product, if you like. So that's purchased from overseas.
So when you say that for people who can't tolerate the New Zealand one, what does that mean?
So people can have allergic reactions to anything really, from nuts and so on, and blood components and blood products are no exception. So when the New Zealand antibody concentrate is transfused, occasionally some people will get allergic reactions to that, to the point that we can't use that anymore. So we do have a second-line product for those patients. Fortunately, very few patients need that. We're talking, a handful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of these things that you've pointed out to me,
Yep.
they are plasma products.
These are all plasma products.
It's no wonder it's liquid gold.
As we leave the laboratories and take off our white coats, I spy a large plastic box with a strange sign.
What's mock blood? I've just spotted something.
Mock blood is for simulations that are done in hospitals. So if you think about pilots, they have a simulation thing where they fly and try not to crash their plane. So the hospitals do a similar thing where they will have a fully staffed theatre, and they will have a dummy, a very realistic dummy that will have a leg that needs to be amputated or abdominal bleeding, etc. And they will run a full simulation like that. As part of that, we can make bags up that look like blood but are actually food colouring and so on for the simulation.
So, it's National Blood Donor Week this week, and the call is out for several thousand more people to join the 17,500 plasma donors to meet hospitals' rising demands. Without them, Richard says, we'll have to buy in more and more.
The hospital's needs for antibody concentrates are just climbing every year. It's about 10% year on year. So we just need to collect more and more. It's intravenous immunoglobulin, which is the antibody concentrate that's used, is used for more and more conditions now. And as a result, we need to get more and more plasma to meet that need.
So the demand, is it because there are more and more people with things like cancer, or is it that plasma is being discovered as a great thing for many, many more illnesses?
It's a bit of both. So we do find more and more patients who end up on long-term antibody support to either prevent life-threatening infections or to control an autoimmune condition that is severely damaging their body. So even though we're very conservative in how we use intravenous immunoglobulin for patients when you compare us internationally. But even despite that, with more and more cancer treatments, more and more long-term patients who live long lives now as a result of successful treatments and successful control of infections, you end up accumulating more and more need for plasma over time.
Does it ever get discussed that paying people to donate their blood?
It does come up occasionally. It's not something that we are really wanting to go down. There are a number of reasons for that. The first and foremost is plasma safety, is the safety of the donation. If you are being paid for something, you now have an incentive to be less than honest on your questionnaire. The second aspect is, I suppose to put it bluntly, is the exploitation of people. If you look at American plasma donors, they are generally the poorest of the poor. To a lot of the world, that feels somewhat exploitative, and that's not somewhere that we particularly want to go, which is why we would like to return to being self-sufficient.
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production funded by RNZ and NZ On Air. This episode was engineered by Phil Benj and produced by Alexia Russell and Davina Zimmer. And thanks to Richard Charliewood. I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. Give plasma, save lives.